that we're going to start something called Project 713. And this is not just going to be for this incident. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to assemble a solid team. We're going to end up making this a 501c3, a nonprofit. And not only are we going to investigate this, but I want this to be a standing working group to where we can actually go behind and proof the work of the FBI and other investigations. You know, looking back at all these different things that have happened that have continued to erode the trust of the American people, we can go all the way back to 9/11 if we want. But, you know, some of the ones off the top of my head, you know, Las Vegas shooting, Uvalde, almost every mass shooting. I think there is always an information campaign that the federal government uses when we have a mass shooting. And it is a very anti-gun campaign. And, you know, I don't know if you all are new to this channel, but I'm as 2A as they get. You know, I think that the Second Amendment is what keeps us free. It is what keeps the government in check. It is what is the main deterrent from the government running amok. We know that, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And the more power the federal government has gotten, the more of our rights have been violated. And it's just an erosion of our rights. It comes down to that. See, Jeff here says, Western Ohio, Bigfoot research people bring all kinds of binos and binos to see better. Yeah. So with that said, going back to Project 13, folks, if, you know, there's all these people out there that want an answer and they're looking to government for an answer. And I think if you, anytime that you're looking for government to investigate the government, you're going to come up pretty disappointed every single time. So again, what we're going to be doing is assembling a whole bunch of folks. I've already talked to surveyors. We're looking at geospatial engineers so we can look at some 3D modeling. We're going to end up needing to work with some attorneys for FOIA requests, some other people with any sort of investigative backgrounds. These are people that we're going to vet very well. We're going to get to know them, see what their motives are, and hopefully it is to save our country and to hold government accountable. You know, again, what we're looking for is truth and accountability. So Project 713, for those of you that are interested, and this is something that you actually believe in, and you actually want to hold the government accountable and do something more than, you know, just talk on YouTube or down in the comments of Facebook, or, you know, give your opinion on what theories are available and all the outrage that we can muster here on the internet. Or what you can do is you can go to our Patreon account. The links are down below in the description. And I have tiers set up just for Project 713. We've always had a Patreon account. We really do appreciate the support that we get through our Patreon members. But if you want to support this effort, it's something that's going to take money. You know, it's going to take money and resources to go out there and do these things. And hopefully we get to a point to where this is something that anytime an incident's taking place, the FBI is going to know that Project 713 is going to muster all the resources we can to hold them accountable and to make sure that they're telling the American people the truth. And then what we're going to do is also keep a running tally on our website where we're going to show you proof of things that the government is lying about. And then, you know, because I think that's the best way to do this. You know, they get away with lying to us because there's no one that is going to hold them accountable. There's no one going back behind them and investigating these things. And I just think we're getting played by the government, and they are able to create the optics that they want. They are able to create the narrative that they want. And if we want them to be accountable, we need a we the people solution. And this is what I've come up with. So this isn't just for this incident. There's going to be more. And that's what I want to make sure that we can do. Let's see. We got a super chat. Liz, thank you. I thought she had a question. She didn't. She just gave us a super chat. So thank you very much, Liz. We appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, the other part of that is kind of a recruiting phase, right? We're going to need people with administration capabilities. We're going to start creating an archive, start putting all the information from photos to different graphics and things like that we've all seen. I have probably a terabyte worth of video, graphics, pictures, and, you know, they're kind of spread out in some different folders. We need to get somebody that can make sure that we're archiving that and organizing that for easy access. The other thing that I want to do is, again, we're going to need somebody that's just going through emails. Folks, I had to create a separate email for this project just because our business emails are just being overran with this. And then ultimately, we're going to have somebody that go through those, answer those, vet those, screen them, make sure that they're legitimate, and then start collecting information as more information comes in. Because there's a lot of cell phone footage out there. There's a lot more information out there that we've yet to see. I don't know if the FBI was able to get those cell phones, or if those are people that were never asked to provide information or provide their phones or whatever else. But the folks, there's a lot more cell phone footage out there that's going to answer a lot of these questions. Val says, do you have a group of people lined up? I do not. I have a few people lined up. I have a former investigator that worked at a couple of different agencies. He also worked directly for the Secret Service back in the day. He's very disappointed in what's going on. This is somebody, I've told you I have two friends that were former, that worked for the Secret Service. One was an instructor. One was a former counter sniper team member. That's not who I'm talking about. This is somebody else I was introduced to through a third party. And we're in the vetting process of that. We had a couple surveyors reach out to us from the Butler area. I definitely want to get out there. We're going to start getting some measurements. One of the problems that we have right now is we have a certain amount of data, and people are just going through and regurgitating through that data. There's a little bit of new information coming out here and there, but not enough to really change people's minds or to really illuminate some of the areas that are gray to us. So we need new information, and we need to get inside that. We need to get inside that facility. We need to look at some of the other. There's just a lot of stuff out there that we need to look at. And again, I think one of the big things that I think it's important. What I've been doing, as far as, I don't mean to say what I've been doing is important. That's not my point. What I'm trying to say is, it's important that we do show what is not plausible. And what I mean by that is going through some of these theories that just don't make sense. You got to get rid of the implausible, and so we can narrow things down. And we'll talk more about that. Let's go ahead and talk about what I've been hearing all over the internet too, as far as the shooter's teeth were blown outward. Folks, when someone is shot in the head, all right, so we have our cranial cavity up there. Your brain is like 85% water. I actually had a graph of, the average male, his body's like 65% water. The brain is actually around 85% water. The reason that rifle rounds are more lethal than pistol rounds, it's like 70% of everyone that's shot with a pistol lives, 30% die. And that is completely inverted with a rifle because of muzzle velocity. And also because of what's known as the hydrostatic shock wave, right? So basically what happens is, what causes the most amount of damage is the velocity. So we have this bullet moving through your body, the projectile moving through your body, and it's displacing all this tissue, fluids, and everything so fast that it creates a hydrostatic shock wave. And water is incompressible, right? It doesn't compress. You can't compress water. So once it starts moving, it's pushing out, and that's actually what ends up killing you and does the most amount of damage. Not necessarily the wound channel. We have the temporary cavity, which, as that bullet goes through there, that's what happens. We have this hydrostatic shock wave that goes through the body, goes through tissue materials. All right. And then it collapses in on itself really fast. And as a matter of fact, if you ever see that on a ballistic gel dummy, it will collapse in on itself so fast that it compresses air and actually causes a secondary explosion that you can see through the clear gel. So there's a lot of damage that takes place there. Now, if a projectile goes through your dome up here, all right, so it's going in there, and all shock waves are going to take the path of least resistance. So as it goes through your brain, all right, it is shooting out this shock wave omnidirectionally in all directions, and it's going to take the path of least resistance. So what's going to do is going to end up blowing out your upper palate, and then it's going to come out through the mouth. So the fact that if we have a bullet wound going through the head and blowing teeth out, that's exactly what you'd expect to see. So there's nothing weird about that. Another thing that people have sent me, Brandon Herrera does some really cool stuff. Is extremely entertaining. I know he's done some ballistic modeling with 300 Win Mag. Folks, ballistic gel is not a good analog for the human body. Ballistic gel, the only thing that does is it mimics the density of human flesh, and it is good for testing penetration. The actual characteristics of what goes on is not, it just doesn't replicate it. It doesn't take into account all the different, number one, your skin, connective tissues, all of these things. So even if you have one of these ballistic gel dummies that has, bones inside, you're going to have an extremely over exaggerated display, results, because that gel does not work like the human body. It doesn't have the elasticity. It doesn't have the tensile strength. It doesn't have, so it just blows up, and it's going to look very dramatic, but that is in no way a good indication of what actually happens to the human body. So when you see those things, take them for what they're worth. They're cool, good entertainment value. I'm not saying that you don't get any information out of it, but it's not, what happens to that gel dummy is not going to happen to a real person. Blood. So I saw some things in the chats on blood today. Somebody was saying to the effect, very definitively, look, when you get shot in the head, your heart stops pumping and you're not going to bleed out. Folks, you do bleed even when your heart stops pumping. So what we have this cardiovascular system, and it is a pressurized closed system. And even if your heart's not pumping, number one, anytime that we have gravity involved, it's going to continue to drain out without a doubt. But even if you have a situation where you're working against gravity, let's say, in this instance, we're laying on a inclined roof, head up. Number one, that system is pressurized. Number two, when you